Hello students, in this lecture we are going to see first theorem, which is unique factorization theorem. So the statement of the theorem is, so the name of the theorem, unique factorization theorem. So the statement of the theorem is, to show every integer a greater than 1 can be expressed as a product of positive primes, and this representation is unique apart from the order of the prime factors. So we will prove this. Means every integer a greater than 1 expressed as product of positive prime numbers. Means suppose I will write suppose 12. So 12 is can be represented as product of prime numbers. So that numbers are, so here 2 into 3, 2 into 3, so I will write here 2 into 2 into 3, right? So this can be written as product of prime numbers. Or I will write suppose 6 can be written as 2 into 3. So this is again 2 and 3 are prime. Here 2, 2, 3 are all prime. Means every integer greater than 1 can be expressed as positive prime numbers, and this representation is unique apart from the order of primes. Let's prove. So proof of the theorem. If so, the smallest positive prime numbers, which is 2. So we will start from 2. So if we have 2 a is equal to 2, then 2 is itself a prime number, right? So there is nothing to prove. There is nothing to prove. As 2 itself prime, itself is a prime, so our result is true. So next we will see for a is greater than 2. So suppose a is greater than 2, so we have taken minimum element a is 2, because so 2 is the smallest prime number, right? So now suppose a is greater than 2. So if a is greater than 2 and if a is prime number, then the integer itself stands as prime. A is prime integer, then the integer itself stands as a factorized, stands as a prime. Means if a is greater than 2 and if a is prime, then it is itself a prime number. That is, for example, suppose which is 5. So 5 itself prime, so it can be expressed in the only way 5, right? Suppose a greater than 1, a greater than 2, which is composite, then composite number can be written in the product of two prime numbers. Suppose 6 is prime number, 6 is composite number, so it can be expressed as product of two prime numbers, so 2 into 3, right? So here second case, if a is composite, if a is not prime, then it is composite number. Since what we say, a is composite, then it can be factorized into two primes. So then it can be factorized as, so a can be factored as a is equal to n1 n2. So n1 and n2 has condition where, so if a is, we have the definition a is composite number, then a is equal to, suppose here we have a is equal to n1 n2, then n1 has condition 1 is less than n1, which is less than a, and 1 is less than n2, which is again less than a. For example, 6 is equal to 2 into 3, means here 2 has condition 1 less than 2, which is less than 6, and 1 less than 3, which is less than 6. This is a composite number, right? So here n1 and n2 has condition 1 less than n1 less than a and 1 less than n2 less than a. If here is can be factored as two numbers. Suppose here n1 is prime, then n1 as it is, right? So if n1 is prime, let it be as it is. Let it be as it is. Otherwise, n1 can be factored. Otherwise, it will be factored into. Two factors. Factored into. Say I will factor n1, which is n3 and n4. So we have n2. So if n1 is prime, then it is as it is. So if n1 is composite, then composite number always and again factored into n3 and n4, right? Where what is condition on here n3 and n4? Where n1 is composite number, so n3 and n4 has condition 1 less than n3, which is less than n1, and on condition n4 has 1 less than n4, which is less than n1 again, right? Similarly we have n1 is prime number, then it is as it is. Otherwise, if n1 is composite, then it can be written as n3 into n4. Now for n2, if n2 is prime number, then it is as it is, and if n2 is composite, then it can be factored again, right? Similarly for n2, this process for writing each composite number, that arises as a product of factors must terminate because the factors are greater than 1, because the factors are greater than 1 and smaller than the composite number, numbers itself, and each factor is an integer greater than 1, and each factor is an integer greater than 1. Thus we can write A as a product of primes. Means every number A can be expressed as product of primes. So we can write A as product of prime numbers. This proves the first part, A can be expressed as product of primes. This proves that A can be expressed as product of primes. Means here what we have taken, A is, if smallest prime number is 2, so A is 2, then it is nothing to prove because 2 itself a prime number. If I take A greater than 2, and if A is prime integer, then integer itself stands as a prime number, so nothing to prove. Now if A is composite number, then we can factor it as n1 and n2. A is equal to n1 and n2. Now here condition on n1 and n2 as 1 less than n1 less than a and 1 less than n2 less than a. This is the condition for composite number. Now if n1 is prime number, then it is as it is, and if n1 is composite number, then n1 again factored into n3 and n4, right? So condition on n3 is 1 less than n3, which is less than n1, and n4 has condition 1 less than n4 less than n1. Again similarly for we have done for n1. Now similarly we have to do this for n2. Suppose n2 is a prime number, then it is as it is, means we get a is equal to n1 into n2. And if n2 is composite number, then n2 can be factored into again like this. Suppose I will write here n5 and n6, where n5 and n6 has condition 1 less than n5 which is less than n2, and again same like this where 1 less than n5 less than n2 and 1 less than n6 less than n2. Continuing in this process, we will get the number which can be written as product of prime numbers, right? So this proves that a can be expressed as product of prime factors. Now second part, we have to prove that this prime factorization is unique. So let's see the second part. Now for uniqueness of prime factors. Uniqueness of prime factors. Suppose we have to assume that a has two factorization. Suppose we assume that a has two different factorings, which is prime factorings, two different prime factorings. So what will have, we have, let a can be written as p1 p2 up to so on pk, and also a can be written as q1 q2. This is the product of q1 q2 up to so on qr. B2 prime factorization of B2 prime factorization of A, that is pi and qj's, that is pi and qj's are all primes, are all prime factors or prime numbers. So that we have so what we have, so here in this equation a has values which is a has prime factorization p1 p2 up to so on pk, and since a has second prime factorization q1 q2 and qr, so a has two prime factorization. So I will write it as same, because a and a, substituting these values we get p1 p2 up to so on pk is same as q1 q2 up to so on qr, right? Therefore what we say, we know that if b is equal to a into q, right, then what we say that a divides b. Here p2 up to p2 p3 up to so on pk are all integers, so product again integers. So what will we get here? What we say that then p1 divides q1 q2 up to so on qr, or we can write it as, like this. So here q1 q2 up to so on qr is equal to p1 p2 up to so on pk. So this can be written as p1 into remaining term p2 up to so on pk, right? This belongs to here p2 or pi's are set up, pi's and qj's are from what? Set of integers, right? So here q1 q2 up to so on qr, then by the definition of divisibility, what we say that p1 divides q1 q2 up to so on qr. Then we have the theorem that, what is the theorem? Which is Euclid's lemma in generalization. What we have, if p divides product of prime, suppose q1 q2 up to so on qr, then p divides at least one of these q1 q2 up to so on qr, or 1 less than equal to I less than equal to r, means P must divides at least one member of this, right? So here P1 divides Q1, Q2 up to so on QR. So what we see that then P1 must divides at least one Qj for at least one j which is one less than equal to j less than equal to value of r, means P1 must divide at least one number of this prime number, right? Because P1 and Qj both are all primes. We have mentioned here Pi's and Qj are all primes. So P1 divides Qj, so both are primes, means what we say that P1 and Qj must be same because both are prime, and P1 divides Qj means both are same numbers. So what we see that implies, so here P1 divides Qj for at least one j, one less than equal to j less than equal to r. This is the corollary we have seen for generalization of Euclid's lemma, right? So but P1 and Qj are primes, both are primes, and P1 divides Qj means what? Both must be same. So P1 is equal to Qj, both must be same, P1 is equal to Qj. So I will write this is as equation 1. So P1 and Qj both has same value, so I will cancel both sides, right? So suppose here is Q1 and here P1 and Q1 has both Qj has same value, so I will cancel throughout. So what will we get? So cancelling P1 and Qj from corresponding sides of equation 1. So what will we get when P1 and Qj cancel? So we get Q1 Q2 up to so on Qj minus 1 Qj plus Qj, I have cancelled Qj minus 1, here is Qj plus 1. So Qj is cancelled up to so on Qr, which is equal to P1 cancelled, so P2 up to so on Pk. Again here is P3, right? So P3 Pk are set of integers. So from the definition what we say that P2 again divides Q1 Q2 up to so on Qj minus 1 Qj plus 1 and so on Qr. Then again by using lemma that if P divides Q1 Q2 up to so on Qr, then P divides at least one number between these, right? So what we say that here P2 is prime, and again it must divide at least one factor on right hand side. So here P2 is prime, but P2 is prime and it must divide at least one factor on right hand side, right? Because P2 divides this number, means P2 divides at least one member of this, means here what we say here P2 divides at least one, means one less, suppose I will write Qj plus 1 where 1 less than equal to Qj plus 1, j plus 1 less than equal to r, right? So here what we say P2 is must divide P2 is prime and it must divide RHS, right? Means what we say P2 is prime number and P2 is prime, right? And it is must divide at least one factor on right hand side. So RHS I will write, so P2 is equal to at least one member on right hand side. Therefore P2 is equal to at least one member on RHS, right? So what we say that, so P2 is equal to, I will write suppose Qj plus 1, then cancelling P2 and Qj plus 1 corresponding side. So what will we get? Now cancelling P2 and Qj plus 1 on corresponding side. So what will we get? Here we will get after cancelling, here I have cancelled P1, so here I have cancelled Qj, and again I will cancel P2 with Qj plus 1. So we get Q1, Q2 up to so on Qi minus 1, Qi plus, here I plus 1, j plus 1 is cancelled. So I will write Qi plus 2 up to so on Qr, which is equal to what we get? I have cancelled P2, so P3, P4 and up to so on Pk, right? Continuing in this way, in final stage, what will we get? Either one side, either every element will be exhausted or one side will be exhausted. Means if every element or every prime number is exhausted, means LHS is equal to RHS, means primes will be same. And if one side is exhausted, then what will be we get? So product of prime numbers will be equal to 1. Means one side if get cancelled, means P3, P4 up to so on Pk will get cancelled, and LHS will remain some prime numbers. So product of prime numbers will get equal to 1. So which is not possible, means prime numbers will be equal or must be same, right? So let's see. So continuing in this way, every time we cancel one factor, from both sides. Since the number of primes is finite, we will arrive at one stage. Where factors on either side get exhausted, on one stage where factors on either side get exhausted, or all factors on both sides, get exhausted simultaneously. Then if all factors on both sides exhausted simultaneously, then we get R is equal to K, means same number of prime numbers, and factorization is unique, and factorization is unique. For example, suppose I will write 2 into 3 into 4, 5 into 7, which is same as 7 into 5 or 7 into 2 into 5 into 3. So this is the prime factorization of number A, I suppose, right? So I have assumed that the number A has two different prime factorization, right? So I have written, so these 2 divides this number, so 2 divides 7 into 2 into 5 into 3, means 2 divides at least one member of this, means what here 2, right? 2 divides 2, right? So we will cancel 2 on both sides, so remaining numbers are 3 into 5 into 7, which is equal to 7 into 5 into 3. Again 3 divides remaining number 7 into 5 into 3, means 3 divides at least one member, so 3 divides 3, means we will cancel 3 on both sides. So at final stage we will get both sides get exhausted, means both side element get exhausted means 1 it equal to 1 means we will get result means there exist same number of prime factors, or what we say that we will arrive at one stage where factors on either side get exhausted or all factors on both sides get exhausted. Suppose one side factor get exhausted, suppose 3 into 5 into suppose 2 which is equal to right hand side get exhausted means all number will get cancelled, right? Means here 3 into 5 into 2 is equal to 1 means product of prime numbers is equal to 1. Is it possible? No, right? Means both primes will be equal. So here we get factorization is unique. If possible only one side, if possible only one side of equation 1 gets exhausted means if in equation 1 one side gets exhausted means suppose q kept we have the relation q1 q2 upon qr is equal to p1 p2 up to so on pk means one side get exhausted means suppose this side get exhausted means what is the remaining element. So suppose qi plus 1 and up to so on qk elements remain and previous element up to qk will get cancelled by p1 p2 up to so on pk which is equal to 1, right? Gets exhausted means what? Some element so qi plus 1 up to so on qk is equal to 1. So qi plus 1 qk are all prime numbers, but qi's are all primes and product of prime numbers which will never be equal to 1, right? Means numbers always or numbers should be cancelled, right? So what we get then, it means whatever prime factors left on other side, the product will be equal to product of primes will be equal to 1, which is impossible, but which is not possible, right? So which we get, which is impossible that product of prime numbers will always not equal to 1 means what? Which is the contradiction to our assumption that one side will be exhausted means what? The numbers r and k will be same means product of primes will be same. So we say that both sides must exhausted simultaneously. This completes the proof. Hence primes are unique. Hence product of primes are unique. Let's see the corollary. So the statement is, let a which is not equal to plus minus 1 be any non-zero integer, then a is equal to plus minus p1 p2 up to so on pk, where pi's are prime numbers. So let's prove this. So proof of the theorem. So we have a is non-zero number not equal to plus minus 1 and which is non-zero means here this can be written as product of prime numbers. So here a not equal to plus minus 1 means what? We will take here mod a which is strictly greater than 1, right? So here what is the properties for modulus function? Mod a is equal to a if a is greater than 0 and minus a if a is less than 0. So here mod a is a not equal to plus minus 1 means what? Mod a should be greater than 1. So, by so clearly we say that mod a greater than 1. Then by uh, unique factorization theorem, factorization theorem, unique factorization theorem, what we say, if mod a greater than 1, then mod a can be written as product of primes. So p1, p2 up to so on pk, where pi's are primes and the expression is unique. Pi's are primes and the expression is unique. Is unique. But we have modulus a has value plus minus a, right? So modulus value plus minus a. Then in this equation, after putting mod a is equal to plus minus a, we get plus minus a is equal to p1, p2 up to so on pk. So I will transfer plus minus a, plus minus sign on other side. We will get a is equal to plus minus p1, p2 up to so on pk. Hence the proof here. Let's see example. Prove that product of two or more integers. Prove that product of two or more integers of the form 4n plus 1 of the same form, of the same form. So to show that product of two or more integer of the form means the numbers is of the form 4n plus 1, then their product is again same form 4n plus 1. So we will see solution. So we have two numbers are of the form. So let I will take suppose m, which is of the form 4n plus 1, and n is again same form 4n. Here n I will take n dash plus 1. So both the number are of same form, and we have to show that their product means m and n, product m into n is also the same form 4n plus 1. Like so, now we have taking multiplication m into n. So m has value 4n plus 1 and n has value 4n dash plus 1. So taking multiplication 16n into n dash plus 4n plus 4n dash plus 1. So from this I will take 4 as common. So we get 4 into bracket 4n into n dash plus n plus n dash plus 1. So this is again here n and n dash are the set of integers. Then I will write it as 4 n2, here m into n, which is equal, sorry, here I will write 4 into here I will write n2 plus 1. So here n2 is equal to n2 will get 4n into n dash plus n dash, which belongs to set of integer. Here again we get the same form, right, which is the desired form of the multiplication m into n. Hence the proof. Let's see another example. Show that root 7 is not rational number. Show that now square root not rational means we have to assume it is rational. So we have to show that root 7 is not rational number. Assume solution. Assume that square root 7 is rational number, and we know that rational number is always of the form p by q, where q always not equal to 0 and instead of p and or pq belongs to set of integers. So rational number is always of the form p by q, right? So root 7 is also of the form p by q. So we will get let root 7 is equal to p by q, where p and q belongs to set of integers, and what we have, GCD of p and q always equal to 1. This is the definition for rational number. So p by q such that q not equal to 0, GCD of pq belongs to which is equal to 1, and pq are rational set of integers. Now we will squaring on both sides. So squaring, what will we get? Both sides we get 7 is equal to p square upon q square. So up here is divide q square, so multiply on other side, we get p square is equal to 7 into q square. P square is equal to 7 into q square. So this is equation number 1. So by using definition of divisibility, what we get? 7 divides p square. So 7 is prime numbers and 7 divides prime square. So what is the possibility? 7 divides prime square. So what is the prime which divides 7? So 49, right? So that is 7 divides 7 square, means again 7 again divides 7, means what we say that here 7 divides p. So if 7 divides prime square, then 7 must divide p. Let's see this example. 7 divides prime square, which is 7 square, right? Means 7 divides 7. So what we say here, 7 divides 3, right? So then by using definition of divisibility, what we say that p is equal to 7 into r. So this is equation number 2. Also we have, this is p square is equal to 7 into q square. So p has value 7r, right? So using this value we get 7r square is equal to 7q square. So 7r square means what? We get 49r square is equal to 7q square. So dividing both sides by 7, so we get, what will we get? Q square. After dividing both sides by 7, so 7r square. So again here, by using definition of divisibility, we get 7 divides again q square. Now here same thing. If 7 divides q square, then 7 must divide 7, means what? 7 must divide q. That is, if 7 divide prime square, then 7 must divide that prime. So 7 divide q square, then 7 must divide that q, right? So here what we say that 7 divides p and 7 divides q. So this is equation number right. So 7 divides p and 7 divides q. So now therefore 7 divides p and 7 divides q. Therefore what we say that GCD of p and q must be greater than equal to 7, right? So which is contradiction to our assumption, which is contradiction to our assumption that what we have assumed, square root 7 is rational number. Then we have taken rational number is always of the form p by q. If root 7 is rational number, then GCD of p and q must be equal to 1. But what we get here, GCD of p and q is greater than equal to 7, because 7 divides p and 7 divides q, means what? Both GCD of p and q must be greater than equal to 7. So which is contradiction to our assumption that root 7 is irrational number. So assumption that, what we say that, for which is contradiction to our assumption that GCD of p and q is equal to 1. Hence our assumption is wrong, means square root 7 must be irrational number or not rational number, must be not rational number. Hence thank you.